Are you an investigative professional? Did you know you can find the best private investigator resources using investigatorstoolbox.com? This resource community was built exclusively for licensed investigators and investigative professionals. You can network directly with members, educate yourself through free webinars and blogs, and even create your own customizable research library. Membership starts for as little as 49 cents a day. Download the Investigator's Toolbox app or visit our webpage at www.investigators-toolbox.com.
You guys have been hearing for a long time about how much I love Crosstracks, but now you're going to hear from somebody else. So we got George Gerges here. George is a member and a user of Crosstracks. George, tell me real quickly what you love about Crosstracks.
The simplicity of using it and the ability to customize everything that you could do with Crosstracks is awesome. It actually allowed me to take the way that I do my business and implement it into their system. And not only am I able to manage 10 or 15 cases, I'm able to manage 50 to 100 cases with the same effort.
Fantastic. So Crosstracks, the case management system, they are SOC 2 certified. Basically, that's an encryption, really an upgrade. They're the only ones out there that are doing it. So please support this great sponsor that supports our show. Check them out. The links are in the show notes. Crosstracks, if you're an investigator, you should be using them today.
Welcome to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. We're happy to welcome Tina Thomas from Subrosa Investigations. Subrosa is a multi-state investigation company, and Tina holds several hats for the company. She's also the current president of NCISS. So please welcome Tina Thomas and your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today I'm honored to have a friend on the show here today, someone who I've served on a board with for quite some time, and somebody who's got that same can-do attitude that I have, that just like, if no one else is going to volunteer to do it, I'll do it. The only person I know who's held multiple positions on the board. So I want to welcome Tina Thomas to the program. Tina, how are you?
Thank you, Matt. Good morning. I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Good. So you were in Arizona, but you've relocated to Ohio, so you're a little closer to New York. Your life has been pretty crazy these days. So you work for Subrosa, which is a national investigation company. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm currently the director of investigations for Subrosa Investigations. I've been with Subrosa for about 10 and a half years. And like you said, we're headquartered in Arizona, which is where I've been up until recently. We've got an office in Illinois, Michigan. We're also licensed in Wisconsin and Indiana. We've got some crossover, and soon to be licensed in Ohio as well.
Wow, just getting it done, right?
Yeah. Well, our Michigan office has a lot of crossover, with injury cases and whatnot to Ohio, and it's just gotten to a point where we just need to be licensed in Ohio as well.
What's that like, managing a big company like that, with all these multi-states and making sure everything's taken care of? What are some of the challenges you come across?
Yeah, so we have a really good team, and everybody takes a piece of it, so it doesn't fall on any one person, and we just all help each other out. Subrosa is kind of a it is a family atmosphere. Right. And just everybody helps each other. And so we honestly just all work really well together. We don't have a ton of challenges. I would say the biggest challenges would be when there's a 3-hour time difference between Arizona and the East Coast, because right. Arizona doesn't change. And so now there's a 2-hour time difference. So that's a little better, but right. Sometimes the guys are in the field and, they need somebody to run a plate for them, and it's, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But we do have a team that starts early, so we've been able to kind of manage that and figure that out.
Right. And would you say most of your contracts, your work, they can come on the insurance side, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, we do a little bit of both. We do insurance, attorneys, some businesses. We also have a team based in Arizona that does deep dive, comprehensive investigations for investment purposes. So they're all very friendly and consented to. And so we kind of have, a litigation part of the house, or we do anything litigation based, which is kind of where I sit and specialize in.
Right.
We've got a pre-employment division also based in Arizona, and then the due diligence team based in Arizona. So
how have you seen Subrosa grow in the last 10 years?
oh my gosh, that's funny that you asked that, because when I joined Subrosa, I was the first person to join that wasn't an owner.
Right.
So there were 4 investigators. I became investigator 5. We were only in Arizona. We were in a very small suite in Phoenix. We completely outgrew our suite and had to move upstairs. We were literally on top of each other when we were in that suite. And then we eventually officially sent one of our investigators, Rick Perez, back to Illinois, because that's where the CEO, Dan Perez, is from. And we've always maintained our license there. So we just had a lot of work there. So we officially went back. So that was office number 2.
Right.
And then we merged with Jim Kelly out of Michigan to open our Michigan office. So, I mean, we started with 5 people and we fluctuate around 20 employees. So, and then we've got subcontractors that help us as well. So it's just huge.
So typically, how do you find those subcontractors? Is it just through networking, or do you run advertisement? How does somebody who wants to get on the path there with Subrosa, how does that happen?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate. I've been in this industry since 99, and I've developed some really great contacts and friendships. And faces get cases, somebody told me.
That sounds
John
like a George.
That
sounds like a George Gerges thing. So.
It was John Talaganis told me
John.
that.
There you go. Okay, yeah. Close enough.
Because, but anyway, so going to conferences, NCISS conferences, local conferences in Arizona and Michigan, I've got to meet some great people, and of course, just NCISS has been incredible. The talent through NCISS has been great. And, if I need somebody in New Mexico or, Las Vegas, Nevada, I've got resources. And, that's been nice, because sometimes it's like, where do you start? Well, you start with the people that are part of a national professional association for, your industry. And that tells you right there that they care about the professionalism and being part of that network. So that helps.
Oh, absolutely. And we've actually helped each other out. I've done some things for you here in New York, and you've helped me out in Arizona. So we're real walking testimonials here on the benefits of that. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely good. And you obviously serve on the board of NCISS. I think you do. I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I'm the current president of NCISS, but I've served the board for 6 years or so. I was region director 5 for a while, which included Arizona, Utah, and a weird, I think there's about 11, 12 states part of that.
Right.
But I got to meet a lot of the presidents in that region and really grow my network and meet some great professionals that are very passionate about our profession. And, that was great.
Right. Yeah. I've been on the board Now I think it's 1.5 terms. I took over for somebody
Yeah.
who moved up midterm and then got elected one time, and I've enjoyed it. Even from the first time, when we would have hit the hill, there would be a board meeting, and all members are encouraged to go sit in the board meeting. I came in early and said,
Mhm.
you know what, I'm going to go check this out, and I was just so impressed by the people in the room and the passion in the room. And then, of course, I can't sit on my hands. I got to raise my hand and say something.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it was like, okay, here's a guy that should probably serve on our board at some point.
Yeah.
I doomed
Yeah.
him.
And you
So.
told us no several times, but you're very passionate. And that is when I met you at one of the last Hit the Hill events that we had. And I believe that was 2019.
I
And
think so. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we kept trying to get you to serve on the board because you're so passionate and you're a doer. You care about our profession, and you're very well connected in your region. So
Yeah. I mean, I love meeting people. I love meeting people that do what we do and talking to them. That's kind of
mhm.
the whole reason I do the show here, just to introduce people to other investigators around the country, or essentially around the world too, because we've had some international guests, and just understanding how to do certain things, and building that network, because it is so important. You say faces get cases. That's true, but those relationships that you build going to these events, or participating in listservs and things like that, you're only as good as your resources, right? So
Yeah,
it's so important to be a part of that. It's so important to support organizations like NCISS and understanding exactly what they do, because I don't think I think there's a lot of investigators in our industry that don't really understand the importance of NCISS, and the importance of having somebody having your back, with all the rules and laws that are out there. So what's
yeah.
been your experience so far serving on the board, some of the things that you've seen happen?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of things that have been threatened that could potentially change people's careers and how they do business. And I think it's really important. People, just investigators, security professionals, they don't realize how close they are to losing how they do their profession, in an instant. And they if they're not part of their state and national association like NCISS, then they could lose something as simple as being able to use GPS in their state. And that was one of the first things I encountered when I first became the region director in Region 5. Is Utah had a bill that was threatening to take their GPS usage away.
Right.
And there were not going to be any exceptions. It was only going to be for law enforcement. And NCISS wrote a great letter, and we rallied a bunch of investigators and security professionals to write letters, to get an exception. And of course, there's great people on the ground in Utah that were, advocating for it. So that was my very first experience with people were going to have a serious impact on their profession, how they do legitimate business. It's not scary, or they're doing something improperly. They're perhaps following a claimant who has an insurance claim, and the insurance company wants to know, is this person really injured?
Yeah.
And some areas are remote and they're hard to set up as far as investigators go. And the use of GPS help us safely know when people are moving into an area where we can better see, how they're acting and moving. And our job as investigators is just to report facts.
Yeah.
And if somebody is moving or not able to move, that's all we're doing. So
Yeah.
those tools just help us do our jobs
Oh,
and report.
absolutely. And people don't realize, especially you come across like election cycles, right? So a politician, as they're hitting their election cycle, like what's important to them?
Yep.
He always says what's most important is the next term, right? Getting
Yeah.
reelected, right? And what happens is they play into their constituency, right?
Yep.
And they throw out these buzzwords and these, fear factor words that are just like, oh, my privacy is so important to me,
Yes.
this and that, and they play up on it, and it's a lot of rhetoric, right? So there are people writing speeches for them. They're saying things they don't really understand the behind the scenes that go into it. And that's why like NCISS is so important, because you have people that actually take meetings with these officials. And we always say like the best people to meet with is not actually the congressman, the senator, or all that. No, you want to meet with their communications director, the person who's writing those speeches, person who's pushing the agenda, the person who that politician is leaning on to make the decision for them is really who you want to talk to. And, understanding that what we do can be, I guess, parlayed in a way that is very frightening to folks, right? It can be, this investigator has access to too much information and things like that. And, having an organization like NCISS is so important because, we're able to shed light on this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely, and you touched on something else I was thinking of with data privacy. It's real important for us to, some states we have better access to records, some states we don't. For example, in Arizona, we have access to people's photos, their driver license photos.
Right.
Well, that helps us know if you're following somebody like me named Christina Thomas. That helps you know what she looks like if you can't find her on social media. You want to make sure you're following the right Christina Thomas.
Or serving, right? Serving the right Christina Thomas.
Serving the right person, yeah. And you get people that say, oh, that's not me. Well, how do you know? But, the data privacy stuff really helps us make sure we've got the right person and we're not saying, there is a Christina Thomas in Maricopa County, Arizona. It's a criminal and it's not me.
You sure about that?
But, yeah.
Don't they have like work camps out there in Arizona? Sure we're on some farm doing some work.
That's my story. It's not me.
Right.
But
crazy sheriff out there making people do hard labor.
Yeah. Well, he's no longer our sheriff.
Oh man, I think I studied that guy when I was in college.
Yeah. The hardest sheriff in America or something. But he was voted out a few years ago.
Well, this is a good part to take a break here. I think we'll take a break, let the sponsors kick in, and then we'll do a reset on this, because I do want to continue to dive into the whole purpose of NCISS and just people understanding how important it is, and some of the things that are on the horizon that could be an issue that your organizations keep an eye on. So everybody sit tight and we'll be right back.
Are you a member of NCISS? Do you know what this great organization does? The National Council of Investigation and Security Services was formed in 1975 to keep a watchful eye on legislation that affects our industry. Now more than ever, there are data privacy and DMV issues popping up all over the country. Consider joining and supporting this much-needed watchdog for our industry. Learn more at nciss.org. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Looking for an insurance agent that puts you first? Every PI business is different. That's why OREP Insurance can shop multiple markets to ensure you get the best coverage to meet your unique business needs. OREP's model is business by the golden rule, and for over 20 years, they've built their business by putting their clients first. So come enjoy a fast online application and same-day certificates of insurance at OREP.org. OREP has coverage for armed investigators, executive protection, and even has a separate policy for security firms. The application takes less than 5 minutes, so visit OREP.org today. OREP.org. Check out the latest issue of PI Magazine, available online or via hard copy. Visit PIMagazine.com to learn more.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today we're joined by Tina Thomas. Tina, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. So apparently you may or may not have served some time in Arizona. We're still trying to figure that one out. I appreciate you being here and jumping on and talking about this. I know we were talking about doing this a while ago, so I'm happy that we were able to get in and do this. So we had covered some of the important things in NCISS, and we started talking about data privacy before we got out. And I don't think people realize like how important and how much at threat we are to losing all that information. I mean, it's like when you serve on a board and you start seeing these things back and forth, you're like, oh my God, this is a real eye opener. Why don't people realize this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's definitely it's a challenge to stay on top of that. And there's always things popping up, right? So when you stick your finger into the plug of the wall to stop the water from coming out, then you get another leak that's springing up somewhere else, right?
Yeah, and like you said, there's always a legislator or senator or somebody here there that wants to try to contain the data privacy where we all act very responsibly with the information, and part of finding a good investigator or security professional that is part of their state and federal associations, that they are professionals and using the information for legitimate business purposes, and we get audited.
Yeah.
We can get audited. So if, we have to have certain things in place to make sure that nobody can just walk into our office and, get to our data. Everything is locked down. Our office is locked. Our computers are passcoded, and, we protect everybody's information. That's part of what we do. We are literally protecting the public.
Yeah. And just as the investigators realizing when you're doing research, like don't ever cut and paste your reports, that has all that sensitive information on there. People don't realize that, don't turn that report over as an attachment that could end up as a court exhibit one day, and what you're doing is you're just giving ammunition to that politician who's looking for some fiery rhetoric to scare people into voting for their agenda. It's really crazy.
Yeah, and the data sources too, and I know you know this, but the data sources are just a place to start, especially if you have a common name. Christina Thomas,
a criminal.
I can't even imagine what would come up with my name in Maricopa County.
Yeah.
So,
they know all about those Thomases out there.
Yeah. A good investigator takes that information to the next step. They make sure that the date of birth, the address, the age, everything matches. So.
Yeah, I had a funny story when you're talking about criminal in Arizona, and I don't know if it was your office or you referred me to a guy that helped me out, where I had somebody. It was one of these cases a year or two ago where they had the people who served in the military that had hearing loss because of not having the right ear protection. And there was a guy who had a claim, and he had unfortunately gotten arrested and was locked up in jail in Maricopa County. Okay. And I needed somebody to go meet with the guy because he had to sign off on some releases and things like that. And when we got there, and it was great because, I hooked up through NCISS, I threw it out there. And I believe it was you who responded to me. And either, again, it was your office or somebody you referred me to who
Yeah.
had the credentials and knew how to get into Maricopa County and in prison and all that. So we got in there, and the guy was released like the day before. And he was like transient, it's like, oh crap, like, how am I going to find this guy now? Right. We had no idea where he was going. And then like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 days later, I get a call back from the guy and he's like, "You still looking for this guy?" It's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, couldn't help himself and kind of got a violation of parole and he's back in prison." So we were able to go get our documents signed.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
So it was a funny story, and it's something where, NCISS has actually helped me get that job done. And my client in New York was like, "Holy crap! Like, how did you find this person? How did you do it?" It made me look like $1 million. And I'm just like, I get contacts everywhere.
Yeah. I can't remember if we did that or if I referred you to somebody through Alpine, but
yeah, I don't remember, but it worked out.
Yeah.
And
That's good. I'm glad it worked out. See, that's a great story.
Yeah. And NCISS has definitely played a role in that. Right. So, one of the other good parts about it is the healthy listserv on there. And it is one of the healthiest, in my opinion, in the industry. I appreciate that there's not a lot of spam with the same questions over and over again. People respect that. And the answers or the questions are real and the answers are real too.
Yeah.
Which is
awesome. And we're also working on, I want to throw out there too, NCISS, Lisa Turley started doing coffee and conversations.
Yes. Yep.
And her and I are both very passionate about educating our members. And as part of the membership, we do different topics. There's a lot of people who are just one-man show, or maybe a small office and they don't have other people to roundtable questions with. So we've done one on ethics about a year ago, and we're getting ready to do another ethics in December, which you're going to be a part of that panel.
Who invited this hack to be on that show? That's my question.
So, the famous Kitty Haley that literally wrote the book on ethics and is, one of my idols. She's going to be on the panel. You're going to be on the panel. George is going to be on the panel. And it's so nice to get different perspectives, literally, about what investigators do with different situations. So anyway, we're continuing those. We've got a great lineup of education and coffee and conversations. It's free for the members. We check with the panelists to see. Sometimes we record them, sometimes we don't. Right. Sometimes they don't want to be recorded. But anyway, so we're very excited about that. And I'm carrying that through into, my term as president.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem with it being recorded as long as George's camera's off. Hey, look at that guy. It's very upsetting. He's always got a scowl on his face. He's very intimidating. It's great. I love all those people, and I'm of the same background here. Like, I love to talk about things and educate and just I think there's such a need. If you look at our industry, the growth rate's somewhere around 9-10%. And that's people. 10% of people that are getting into this industry that really have no instruction on how to do what we do. I remember when I first started, it was like, where do I start? What do I do? And thankfully I had a guy who was a mentor to me. I worked with him on my first job out of college, and he ended up getting into this industry, and he had a successful business at the time. And I called him up and said, "Hey, can I shadow you for a couple of days? Cause I just need to, understand how to do this." And it was interesting because I wasn't starting my own business at that particular point. I was actually going to work in-house for an attorney. So the attorney wanted me to be his in-house investigator. I was going to be the only guy, like he was my only client because I was working for him. So it wasn't like competition for this guy. So he was like, "Okay, yeah, sure. I'll show you how to do this stuff." Not knowing, 4.5 years later, I'm starting my own business and I'm in direct competition. And the guy's ex-partner at that point called me up and was like, "Oh, you steal my clients. I'm going to come get you." So I was like, "Relax, man. It's New York. There's like 5,000 law firms in New York. I think we're going to be okay."
I was going to say there's enough work for everybody.
Yeah.
I love sharing information. And like you said, there's so many people that get into this industry by accident, or, maybe they're former law enforcement and they don't really know rules and how to get things in the private sector. And that's one thing I love, is educating people and giving them tools for them to be successful. Because when our colleagues are successful and do things professionally and ethically, we're all successful.
Yeah.
And if we can head some of that off, and not help somebody not get into trouble, then we all succeed. And there's enough business to go around that I
100%.
I can tell people how to do, secrets of asset investigations. And I'm not trying to do work for people in California or Washington State. I'm focusing in other states like Arizona. So
I tell you, I love going out and going to these conferences and talking about the stuff that I know about, the stuff I consider myself to be a quote unquote expert on, allegedly.
Mhm.
Like I love getting in front of people and talking, and then doing a Q&A after. Like, it just, that free flow back and forth of the questions,
Mhm.
like it's great. It's great. I mean, I was in Aruba in August, doing something, and I was fighting against, the ocean. People going out and like, all right, how many people are going to be in the room listening to me, and how many people are going to skip me because I'm kind of a bore and go catch some waves. And I could just say it was like 75 to 80% of the people were in the room, which I appreciate that.
That's
And,
good.
I got a couple follow-up emails and questions, and it kind of makes it worthwhile to do it. But
Mhm.
I'm of the same ilk, right? Like, I'm not going to hold close to my vest how I do stuff. I'm an open book. It's
Yeah.
easy. Like, and nor am I afraid of losing my clients. Like, I'm in
Yeah.
business 18 years, and I've built those relationships. So it's not just the work that we do, it's the relationships that you have. Like, nobody's going to leave you unless you're terrible. If you're terrible, you should probably learn how to get better by attending,
Yeah.
coffee conversations, learn how to learn some ethics, and then go back to
Yeah.
it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good stuff. I love that there's been that shift in the industry and all that. And also kudos to NCISS for their website upgrade. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it looks
selfishly, I love the stuff on the back end that helps the regional directors do their job a lot easier.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean, it's a difficult transition for some, but I think it looks great, and it's just really brought NCISS up to date, and I think it's helped members find things better. And I think the listserv has been better too, especially there's, you know, a listserv for the members, there's a listserv for people who are on the board, and things like that. And it's nice because you don't just get spammed with everything. And
right.
I've found it really much better than the other. I think it was member clicks or something is what it was called
Oh
before,
yeah.
and now it's Club Express. So
Right.
yeah, it's been a great transition. And I know that was one thing that Wes Bearden really wanted to get done in his term, and I think it looks great.
Yeah. Wes is great. Lisa's great. I mean, even before that, Andrea, like it's
Yeah.
the leadership and the people that are involved in this association, folks like Francie Kaler's another one, it's like,
Mhm.
these are people that love our industry and they love
Yeah.
do what we do. And, like guys like Wes has like such history with his dad being, a PI before. And,
Yeah.
it's, man, even I'm thinking Brad Duffy, was another guy,
Yeah.
sitting in the room. And I don't even know Brad that well, but man, I was like, I'm in the room with him. I'm like, who is this cat?
I
This
know. I
guy,
know.
like, knows this stuff. So
My first board meeting, I met some of the industry greats. I mean, in my opinion, and I was just so very excited to be in the same room with so many people that have been doing this even much longer than I've been doing it. And I've been doing it for 20 some years.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was so impressive to me was the debate that was going on at the time between some members and the respect that they had for one another in disagreeing on things, because that's always a tough subject. I've served on boards where folks, don't have that respect for one another. And you have bulldogs that are just, bulldozing their way through their agendas and all this other stuff. And to me, it's like, that's why, like, when I was asked to serve on the board, I was like, well, I'm doing a lot of stuff as it is. And my wife always says, like, okay, so what are you giving up? Like, you're going to take this on? What are you prepared to give up? So
that's why I'm only on one board at a time. They wanted me on Alpi, but I've been a volunteer for Alpi for years and years. And I always said when I'm done with NCISS, I'll serve on Alpi. But
you're never done.
Now I've left Arizona, so that's probably not going to happen. But I'll still help them.
They're going to change the bylaws and make an exception. Zoom in.
Yes, I literally talked to Bob Nallett, the Alpi president, yesterday, and said, "Hey, if I can be a board member from Ohio, then I'll do that."
Well, I guess does Ohio have its own association or no?
Yeah, they do, and I plan on getting involved. But
here you go.
I know. So part of NCISS is we have a legislative advisory board, and so it's our lab, is what we call it, and we have meetings. So the presidents or legislative board members can join it, and we all talk about what's going on in each state. And Ted Owens from Ohio was on talking about different things in Ohio, and they've got something here that's threatening the GPS usage here as well. But anyway, one of the things he mentioned was growing the Ohio Association. So I've got some ideas, if they want to hear them, then I'm happy to help. I love volunteering. Subrosa has been great at supporting me and all of my, I'm going to help Alpine, I'm going to help NCSS. And Dan Perez has been great, and just, okay, what do you need? All right, do it,
That's great. That's great.
My next venture is going to be helping Ohio.
Oh, maybe if they made you an owner, you'd stick around a little more. Who knows? It's great. It's great serving and doing all this stuff. I know. That was the other thing that I had to learn when I got to NCISS, was that not every state has a lobbyist. So we have one in New York, and to me, it's like I always thought, oh, just talk to the lobbyist, right? That's what they're there for. That's what we're paying them for. But not every state has that. And so it's like you need that extra push on things. And even like there are issues in New York where, not only do we have our lobbyists, but we're going to need help from, down in Washington as well on some issues. We just had a crazy election here where the son of a private investigator was actually running for governor, and he almost won, which was cool. Yeah. And he's a Republican, and New York is a, staunchly Democratic state. But man, it was close. It was like under 300,000 votes. He did a really, really good job. And I met the guy years ago at an Aldenese event. So I was like kind of rooting for him. And I knew if he won, like that would be really good for Aldenese, because, it's like you're getting the ear of the governor through, his dad, who was a PI or whatever, like it would work out. Wasn't meant to be. That's pretty
cool. Yeah.
So. All right, I think we're going to wind down here. Tina, this is great. Thank you so much for coming on. And I want to just speak real quickly to folks that are listening. If you're a private investigator or security professional and you are not part of NCISS, you need to wake up and get with the program and go visit this website and really consider joining. It's not a big ask for the membership, but it goes a really long way in doing what we do. Do you like being in business? Do you like doing research? Do you like having the ability to put food on your table? Like, these things are important. If we lose the right to do our research, if we lose the right to earn a living, there's nothing we can do about it if we're not investing in that, right? So if we're investing in our lobbies and our associations that are going to look after us and get our backs, there's a better chance that that's not going to happen. And we've seen it happen. It definitely works. So if you're not a member, you need to really consider what you're doing. It's $175 for the year. If you're a member of Investigators Toolbox, you save the $25 application fee. And I really highly recommend it. So I'm talking to you people out there. Get with the program. Tina, tell them where the website is, where they can go check it out.
Yeah, the NCISS website is NCISS.org. And I believe there's an application on there, and just asks you some basic questions about you, your background, your business. And it's, a pretty seamless process. So we'd love to have more members, of course. And it's really just the insurance policy you hope you never need, but
exactly.
Really, there's so many benefits for joining NCISS. I mean, you've got the listserv, you've got free education. Some of our education, you would pay to learn how to do some of these things anyway.
Right.
And then
it's a write-off too, the membership.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and
we've got
a discount through Office Max and Office Depot. Some people use it for copying and office supplies. I've heard people say that pays for their membership. So
right.
There's so many. I'm sure I'm forgetting other benefits, but it's I've been a part of it since I think 2006. So it's honestly one of the greatest investments that I've done in my career.
Yeah, it's so important. We got to be able to protect our ability to do what we do. And to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
So Tina, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was great chatting about this stuff. And, people will realize that we do this topic, a few times a year. Like, that's how important it is, I think, to get on and talk about this stuff. People just realize, that you got to do this stuff. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll check everybody out next week on the next show. Take care.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Tina, for jumping on. Please consider Matt's call to action and check out NCISS. It's important to support this nonprofit. Also, we want to thank Crosstracks, PI Institute of Education, OREP, and NCISS for sponsoring the show. Please support our great supporters. Have you thought about joining investigatorstoolbox.com? Now's the time to get on board and join the fastest growing digital community for investigative professionals. Just use code PIP201836 to save 10% when you do join. And if you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible in the future, and we'll be back next week with a new show. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.